Alright, so let's build a chair. So of course, if we're going to do a chair, the base is probably going to be very similar to what we have for the table. So let's maybe copy and paste our table and maybe call this chair. So we just have a basic thing to start out with. But there's of course going to be some differences here. So let's look over here and let's hide our other stuff. So how could we do a chair? All right, so let's look at what we have here. So we have this thing, and let's think of how could we sort of extract our elements. Okay, so what I'm going to do maybe is I'm going to look at my point numbers. And maybe let's say I want my like the back side to be over here. So maybe what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select these points. I'm gonna blast them away, and I'm gonna do delete non-selected. And normally, if you're doing procedural stuff, you usually wanna if you wanna avoid point selections as much as you can. But because of course with a chair like this, the backside is just always going to be the backside. So in this case, it's fine for whatever we're doing. We can just blast these away, and these are not gonna change. Like if we just move our table, like move our scale, you can see them move along because the point selection won't change. So then we have these points. And then let's remove first, let's maybe disconnect the meshing that we did here. And just put up a line like that. So let's copy a line to it. And maybe we want to copy it in a different direction. So 0, maybe put it into the Y. So then we can sort of, and let's delete the length control there. So we have some control here over the height. So this will be basically the height of the backside of our chair. So if we template maybe this thing, let's make it, we can make it, maybe this needs to be a lot smaller because right now our chair is maybe a little bit big. Let's maybe make this a little bit smaller. Right. So look at it like that. All right. So we have these things being copied. You can see they're already inset a little bit. Maybe we want to customize that a little bit more later, but for now this is fine. Okay, so we want like a back part that can sort of be that you can sit against. So what I'm going to do is that I am going to select one of the points of my line. So I'm going to go to my line and I'm going to select the top point. I'm going to press group, call it top. And then when I'm copying it, so you can see for middle mouse now, you can see top will have 1 point in it. So this will be the group. But if I copy it, top will have 2 points in it because this line is being copied, but the group will also be there. So what I can do after that is I can put a delete down. So delete will allow me to delete stuff. And if I then go to delete top, points, delete non-selected, you can see I only keep these top points. And then I am going to do delete selected, and now we'll only keep the bottom points. And now what I'm going to do is put down an add. I'm going to connect my add to my delete. And so add can do multiple things. It can create a point, like add a point, but if I put it to polygons by group and all points, you can see it creates a line between my 2 points. I also want to do that on the other side. So then I get lines over here. So if I merge this together, you can see I have these two lines. And from these lines, I can maybe create a mesh. So there's multiple ways I could do this. So, but one thing that comes to mind is that maybe I could use called a skin swap. So skin will just create a mesh across our lines. So like that. Another way to do this would be, for example, like I showed before, we could also use a bridge. So if I select this, type polybridge, so then select the other thing, and press enter, you can see right now it's winded, but I can use reverse winding and I get exactly the same thing. So that's what I mean also with Houdini, that there's 1001 ways to do anything. So you could do it with skin or with polybridge. Maybe let's keep it at polybridge for now because we already discussed that one before. So we get a nice little backside here. And now we can, so this will be the back part. So what we could do is we could make a transform down here. So this will be the bottom part. And as you can see right now, like so with the transform, we could transform upwards this thing. And you can see this is sort of jittering sometimes because maybe we want to put a poly bridge set to curved. We want to put it to straight, so it's always a straight bridge. So we could put this upwards, and you can see now this works. But you can see the transform here is kind of in a weird position. So we kind of want to fix that. All right, so if you press move centroid to origin, what will happen is that it will put the origin position at the, well, it will change the pivot translate and the translate. And if you then zero out your translate, you can see this will be in the center. So you would think this is what we need, because right now we can sort of move this up and down and like change the size of our backside. The problem is that if we are changing our scale of our, so you can see this still works, but let's say we make this wider. And now let's go back to our translate. You can see it's not centered anymore. So I guess you could do this every time, but this is of course not really that great of a way to do it. So let's show another way with a very simple expression. And I know expressions are scary, but there are a couple that you really need to know and just need to remember that are not that difficult, but you just need to know them. So let's delete our translate. And we are going to let's put down a new one. And let's type a little expression in our transform. So in our pivot transforms, you want to translate the pivot. So put down a null. So put out the pivot transform. And what we want to do is we want to put this to this position, right? To sort of the center of this thing. So maybe we want to make a node first that we can refer to from the center, and that will so even if we change stuff around, we can always refer back to this node. So maybe what we want to do is we want to type in null. So a null is just a node that really doesn't do anything, but you can just put it down to link stuff to or to refer back to. So let's call it maybe call this center, maybe center underscore null. Maybe that's a good name. All right. So if we click the transform, okay, so we're gonna type a little expression, and maybe let's make this a little bit bigger so you can sort of see what I'm doing. So in the pivot translate, I am going to type centroid. So the centroid of something. Then I'm going to type a bracket. So where are we going to look for the centroid from? You can see if you're on Houdini 18 or up, you can already see a help thing. So to what it's looking for. So we're going to type the path of what we're looking for. So there will be a string. Anything that's a string will be between two of these brackets. So let's type 2 and then go into the center. And let's type 2 dots and the slash for the file path. So if we type 2 dots and a slash, we will look inside of this level. If we were to type more dots and a slash, we could go up a level. If you're used to something like Linux or something, you know how that sort of works. But we can already see our center null. So with the arrow icons, we can navigate to our center null and then press enter. And then after this, we want to, so after this thing, we want to type a comma, and we want to type D for direction, so D underscore X, and then close bracket. So this is the entire thing that we need. We're going to copy this, and we're also going to do this inside the Y, and then we're going to change this to Y, and then the other one thing, we're going to change this to Z. So what this will do is okay, as you can already see, is now it moved it to the center, to the centroid of this thing. So that will be over there. And that was exactly what we were doing as well when we did it with this thing, but now it's sort of linked up. So now you can see if we go in here, we have our backside, and we can still move this up. And now, if we have this translate here, so if we move our thing, so let's make it really big, you can see that our thing just moved with it. So issue solved. And I know scripting might be a little bit scary if you've never scripted before. You don't really need that much scripting in Houdini. I know I mentioned you can do everything in WOPs, but there's a couple of scripts that you do need. For example, this thing that we did here. So because sometimes you just need to refer to a path of an object or a path on disk or something like that. So this is an important one. Note it down somewhere, centroid. There's another one called bbox, but we're gonna do that a little bit later. So now we made the backside controls. Very simple. Okay, so when we made the backside here, we got rid of the part that made the table. So we kind of need to make the backside of the legs of the table again. So maybe what we could do is just go into our table and just copy and paste the table generation part here for the legs. And let's paste that over here. Let's copy again the height of the, so the transformation for the height of the thing. Let's paste that in the line like we did before. Paste relative references like that. So we have that. Now I can remove this part for now, which was where we were merging everything together with a boolean, because we were going to do that later. For now, let's just regularly merge stuff together so we can see what we're doing. So put down a merge. Let's put, so let's not merge that in. Let's merge our backside in. Okay, so we need the backside of our other thing as well, and we need the poly extrude here as well. So let's put this as well. So we still need to generate a mesh for our backside. All right. So how can we do that? So let's, all right. So I can just take this thing that we made, the skin. Let's copy it to the side there. And let me have a quick look. So what we could maybe do is, instead of copying this, we can probably just merge in. Can we do that? All right, let's not do the sweep over here. Okay, so let's remove this sweep. Let's just make these lines here, and then let's merge. So put a merge down there, point your lines. Let's merge in the lines from the top. So we get this. And then let's do our sweep on that. So you can see now we get a sweep. And so there's a couple of things that are different here. So the inset is a little bit different here, depending on what you're doing, that you might want that or not. But what we can do is we can maybe copy parameter of one of the transforms and then paste relative references on the scale of the other thing. So now you can see it sort of nicely lines out. Right, so now we get this mesh here. Now let's merge this in. All right, so that's looking pretty good. So one more thing that we need to do is we have this backside. I kind of need to extrude that outward to make it a little bit thick. All right, so let's put a poly extrude. And let's extrude this thing outwards. And let's put it to output back, so we get the back. But now if you highlight this thing over here, you can see, I mean, it's sort of what we're after, but it's expanding out way too much. We kind of want it to also move backwards while we're doing that. So you should probably know how to do this. So I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to pause the video. Then you can try it yourself. And if you don't want to try it yourself, then I'm going to give you 3 seconds now, and then I'm going to show you how to do it. So 3, 2, 1, and I'm going to show you how to do it. All right, so let's put down a transform, because we want to transform it backwards, right? All right. So now let's copy parameter for the distance. Let's go into our transform here. And this in our translate.z, let's do paste relative references. So right now, I made the problem bigger because if I'm extruding this, you can see it will also be moved in that direction. So bigger problem, right? Well, that's because we haven't inverted this yet. So let's first invert it. Let's put it to minus. Right now, you can see we just changed the problem to go to the other side. So still not what we want, right? That's because we are now moving it equally as much as we're extruding it. But what we want to do is we want this value, put it between brackets, because remember, if you remember math from high school, order of operations. So if you put stuff between brackets, this will be executed first, and then we can put another operation here to do after. So let's put it to divided by 2. All right, now you can see it will be put in the center. So order of operations, very basic math. If you forgot all about math from high school, I can maybe recommend Khan Academy. It will be only needed if you like absolutely forgot all about math. Then it might be useful. So if you just go to khanacademy.org, you type math, there's math classes for whatever, going from super basic to more advanced stuff. So if you want to learn about basic math stuff, might be interesting to look into Khan Academy. You don't really necessarily have to, but just pointing it out there that it might be useful if you don't have any math skills. Anyway, so what we now did is that we just, so when it gets extruded, you can see it's now extrudes sort of to the center. So because it's moving backwards half as much as it's being extruded. Right, and so maybe another thing that we want to do is maybe put down a transform on this part as well, so we kind of have controls over the top part. So maybe we could move that down a little bit. And now we actually have quite a nice chair. So we could go in here, we can move it upwards. So like that. We have a little procedural chair. Maybe we want to do the rounding of edges thing as well that we did at the table as well. So maybe let's do a boolean down here to union the whole thing together. So union. Let's do a group. And remember, this is the same as we did with the table. Now include by edges, minimum edge angle, 90 degrees. Needs to be edges, edge group, or whatever you want to name it. Again, this is just a group name, doesn't matter what it's called. And let's do bevel, poly bevel. And then do edge group. And round, maybe do a division, some divisions. Right, so now we have a chair. Beautiful looking chair. Right, so maybe put a null, call this out. So we just go up a level. And we have our table and our chair. And again, these are just models. So this is where, for example, the object controls would come in handy, because this chair is now made at the center, so at 0, 0, 0. But like as an object, you would just transform it over here. So maybe one more thing that we kind of want to do is that maybe we want to add a couple of controls, so we can have some controls on our objects on top level here when we're sort of placing them in our scene. So that's one more thing we're going to do, and then I think our table and chair are basically done. All right, so what you can do is, let's do it on our table first. All right, so if you click the cog wheel on here, you can go to Edit Parameter Interface, and it will allow us to edit the parameter interface on this object. So you can see we have all of these things: transform, render, miscellaneous, blah, blah, are all here. So let's make an extra folder. So we can just, from the side here, just drag a folder, drag it on there, and call it table parameters. Or maybe we want to be a little bit more table params, maybe something like that. So now you can see we get an extra folder. And then inside this folder, we can like add some extra stuff that we might want to control. Okay, so let's dive into our table. So what will we want to be able to change inside of our table? So we want to be able to change the height and the scale. Right, so the height, what would that be? So I guess we could say, maybe we want just let's make a float vector tree, put it in there. Let's apply. All right, so let's call this, I guess, scale. Let me give it a new name, scale table. So the name on top here will be the parameter that you can reference to, and the label will just be what it looks like in the interface. So scale table. All right. So what we want to do maybe is, so just a quick thing is, let's quickly show some user interface controls, because that might now be useful, because now we're gonna need to dive into networks and then go out of networks. So there's a lot of work. So you can actually change your user interface. So let's do that for a little bit.